before we go any further, we're going to talk about a couple other moves. So, Jurickson Profar re-signed with the Padres. Red Sox were interested in him, but signed with Kiki, which probably fits the team a little bit more since they're looking for a bit of a more reliable guy. Nothing against Profar, but he did have a very solid season and lots of upside, but he has been very inconsistent and injury prone throughout his career, so I'm a little unsure of what the fit could be for him since they did sign Kim to play second. I'm not sure if they're interested in him to play left, but listen, having a lot of good players on the roster was never a bad thing, especially since Kim is going to be making his first season in MLB, so this seems like a pretty solid and safe move by the Padres. Ryan Zimmerman, Mr. National himself, is coming back for $1 million. We got to remember he took last year off, so he could be pretty well rested for this upcoming season, and we'll have to see if that can really benefit him. 2019, he was okay. Year before that, he was very solid in the World Series year, so this seems like a solid move by the Nationals and one that could really benefit them if there is a DH. If not, he's just a very serious veteran presence, so not a bad move at all. Something I want to talk about quickly is the Cubs' losses. Now, they have lost, I believe, 6 significant players from their team. This includes Yu Darvish, obviously, Victor Curtini, Kyle Schwarber, and Tyler Chatwood, just to name a few. I'm sure I'm missing a couple more, but I think it's time to really think about if you're the Cubs, is it time for Brian to go? Because we haven't heard any trade rumors on him in a while. What about Rizzo? He was awful last year. This team is nearing. What about Kyle Hendricks even? I'm sure a lot of teams would be interested in him. So we're kind of getting to a point where the Cubs, where despite them making the playoffs last year, none of their guys were hitting over 250 in the playoffs. We got to see what we can do to maybe restart this. Does Jason Hayward have any value? Because his contract is quite bad. Maybe you can move that somehow. Doesn't seem likely, but you might just need to give it a shot and see what you can do. I'm going to move on really quickly and talk about a couple more things before we get into our 2 big final topics. So we're going to talk about quickly about the MLB Network top 10 first baseman list. We're going to go bottom 10 to 1 and think what I think on it. Number 10, Carlos Santana. We all remember he signed a terrible contract with the Phillies, which led to number 9 on this list, Rhys Hoskins, being forced to play left field. Got traded to the Indians, and he kind of had a big bounce back. He had a terrible year last year, but he's been inconsistent throughout his career. But the thing that probably put him here is he always finds a way on base, and is a really good defender. So I feel like despite his pretty bad season last year offensively, these 2 things make it fair enough for him to be here. Number 9, Rhys Hoskins. This is an interesting one. Started off very slowly, but was red hot before he got injured and will now miss time with Tommy John surgery, so who knows how much time he'll even play next year. So this is a bit of an interesting choice. Normally, I think he'd be a lot higher, quite frankly, maybe all the way up to 5, but obviously having Tommy John is going to hurt him. Matt Olson, kind of like Carlos Santana, but better. Struggled offensively last year, but still has some serious pop. Had I believe a 1.4 WAR due basically to his defense alone. So he's a plus defender at first. So number 7, we got Pete Alonso. Now we all remember his rookie year. Certainly fell off the map a bit last year with how he struggled in the emergence of Dominic Smith. That's why I've been saying they'd be one of the biggest teams to benefit from having the NLDH due to them. And Jose Martinez, which I talked about before, but still 16 home runs and 817 OPS, certainly not bad at all. Defense can be a little suspect at times, but putting him at a halftime DH role could really help him. So I think this is a very fair pick. I expect Pete to have an even better season next year. Next, we got Anthony Rizzo. This is one I really don't kind of like. He was absolutely awful last year. He's still good defensively, but his hitting just took a massive drop off, and I just suspect it's going to continue to a negative trend. I don't think it'll ever be as bad as it was, but I feel like he's getting benefit of the doubt here, considering he has been a premier guy in the sport for quite a while, but I think we're starting to feel that negative gap for his career, and that's why maybe the Cubs might not look to move him, and we'll have to see what happens. Max Muncy, another guy who had a bad year last year. Kind of interesting to see. Like, a lot of these guys struggled for a good part of last year, if not all of it. But has a lot of value due to all of the positions he plays. Serious part of the Dodgers, though, in the playoffs for sure. Abreu, this guy should have been higher, I think. Possibly nearly MVP last year. What was he? Anyway, insane numbers last year. This guy is going to just continue to improve, I believe. He led a playoff team with a lot of young players. So, expect this guy. I would have put this guy, I think, second or third compared to the fourth, but we'll move on and see what we think of it. And actually, he did win MVP last year. That's my bad. But it's almost like you have a little bit of an asterisk due to the joint season, but still 19 home runs and a 3 WAR and 60 RBIs, all of which the 60 RBIs and 76 hits led the league, along with a 617 slugging. Quite incredible. Luke Voigt, number 3, pretty fair. I probably would have had Jose in front of him. I think he should be, quite frankly, but this is a guy who has improved ever since he's gone to the Yankees. Another miserable trade by the Cardinals, even though they did get Gallegos, but Luke led the league in home runs last year with 22 and had a 950 OPS. So, as much as I think Jose should be higher than him, it's understandable while he's here. Number 2, Paul Goldschmidt. Paul, one of the premier first basemen for my entire life, basically. 58 games last year, hit 883 OPS. This is where I would have had Jose Abreu, but this is a premier guy in the sport. It makes certainly sense. Paul has definitely also had a longer longevity of his career and great defense as well, so understandable. And the number 1 is pretty obvious. I say Freddie Freeman. He's kind of been here for a while, I think. MVP winner, 4-time All-Star, 341 last year with a 3.2 WAR. I believe our 2 MVPs should be 1 and 2, because this guy led the league in runs and doubles last year, along with 1,100 OPS. Just incredible. Obvious number 1. And one more thing with this part of the pod, we're going to talk about the top prospects list. So this is just something I want to point out, basically. The Baseball America came out with a top 100 prospects list, and the top 4 teams with top 100 prospects were all playoff teams. The Padres have 7 top 100 prospects, even after some of these trades. Blue Jays have 6, Marlins have 6, Rays have 5. Kind of reminds me of the Dodgers a few years ago when they weren't really winning World Series yet, but they still always had a ton of top prospects. For example, Gavin Lux, we haven't really even seen yet. So, and then obviously Corey Seager was a guy who was a top prospect while the Dodgers was still a great team. So these teams could be looking towards, maybe not as much the Rays and Marlins since they don't have the money to spend, but still, these are teams that are going to be looking to make like long stretches in playoff contention. So I always am like almost afraid of these teams that are so high up with these number of top prospects and already playoff teams. Is really incredible to see.